Mm. That's awesome.
All he has is next meeting, so maybe Earl can take that.
Okay, I'm back. Oh, we got somebody. Yeah, Miss Jacqueline is coming in. So did you talk to her about how a meeting is run and what's typically involved? Because she kind of came in the middle last time. Yes, she did. Okay.
Yeah, I just emailed her an agenda as well.
Okay. So welcome everybody to this new era in PG Articulators. We made our transition to Jitsi. Everybody made it on successfully, I guess, at least for the people that are here. We can't count those people that aren't here. We'll just assume that they weren't coming and that they weren't having trouble getting on. It's going to be a great day today. It was not so good yesterday. I was supposed to go sailing this afternoon, but there was so much wind yesterday, they canceled my rental. So now I'm all bummed out, but the sun's out. It's going to be nice today. So before we get started, there are a couple of roles that need to be filled. If I can find which page that is. This one. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so we've got a couple of people MIA today, so we need to fill a few roles. Grammarian Wordmaster. Anyone interested?
Brandon can.
Brandon. Way to step up. And then counter.
I can do that if you would like me to. Doesn't matter. I'm a speaker, so if somebody else doesn't want to do it, I'm happy to do it.
I'll take it then.
Okay, John. And then we need an evaluator. So, yeah, that's weird.
I can do the evaluator.
Okay, if I can get in the box. All right.
Where Jess was, right?
Yes. So I will email you. Actually, I will put it in the chat, Sean's evaluation form. So that's one of the advantages using Zoom is it has this capability that we can share files via chat. So now if I can just find the file.
So should I try this by putting my evaluation resource file in the chat that I already emailed Sahani, and then Renee.
Oh yes, I forgot.
Renee can pick it up.
Sahani's,
Can't talk today.
wait, Sahani's not here. I just realized that. Duh.
Ah,
I'm smart. So we need another evaluator.
So I'm going to download my evaluation for whoever picks it up.
Okay, which one do you want to take, Ray?
I don't care.
Okay. Why don't you do Sean since I already
Put me there,
did that, and I'll do yours, Michelle.
Earl.
Okay, so Oop. Okay, so I'll be evaluating Michelle and Ray will be evaluating Sean. Okay, do you have the form, Ray? So if you open up the chat window, it should be listed there.
Well, I just lost the meeting.
Earl,
Yes.
when I downloaded my evaluation form, I couldn't figure out how to type on it. So my name's not on it, but
That's fine.
you and I know that it's for me.
Okay. It's fine. I'll figure it out.
Sorry.
Probably. Okay. We'll go ahead and get started since all that's out of the way. Excuse me. So since our Sergeant at Arms is not here, I'll handle the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you guys could stand for just a sec. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So now I have no announcements coming, but so we had this discussion. We'll do this real quick. I'm sure the EC will concur that our open house, which was scheduled for December 5th, is coinciding with WLI, Winter Leadership Institute, which is a series of free lectures that the district gives. I'm a big believer in opportunities to improve yourself, and these are free. So we should move our open house. But the question is, do we move it to the middle of December or do we move it to the beginning of the year? Any thoughts?
I vote for January.
Yeah, January be good.
Okay, what's the first Saturday in January? Anybody know offhand?
It'll be the,
Second,
The second.
no,
Oh,
no.
yeah,
Well,
it's the
Yeah.
second.
Yeah, it
about the
is the
16th,
yeah, that'd probably be better.
because that's a holiday weekend. Second,
Too much stuff going on.
3-day
People
weekend.
will- They'll still be recuperating on the second. So, okay. So tentatively for the 16th. All right. Let's see what else we got here. And then I'll hand it off to the Toastmaster of the day, who is me. Again, welcome everybody. And welcome our guest, Miss Jacqueline. Thanks for coming back.
Glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
All right. So we'll start off with a discussion of all the roles during the meeting so everyone can get a feel for what everyone does during the meeting. And and we need a topics master. I just realized because Sahani was the topics master and she's not here. Anyone have any?
I guess that leaves me.
Okay. All
I'll
right.
try to-
Thanks for stepping up, Donnell. So if you could give a quick overview of the topics master role.
Okay, table topics. You get a chance to impromptu speak, and the guests are invited to do that as well. It's 1 to 2 minutes. I'll give you a subject or a question or something to talk about, and you just speak off the cuff.
Thank you, sir. Now we'll move on to the general evaluator. And for today, that is Ray.
You're on mute.
There. The general evaluator evaluates the overall meeting, facilitates with the evaluation process, and introduces her helpers who are going to do various jobs. And the first helper I'd like to introduce is Brandon.
All right, thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Today I will be the grammarian, and as the grammarian, it is my responsibility to pay close attention to all the speakers, listening carefully to their language. I'll also take note of any improper language, as well as any outstanding words, quotes, sayings, or thoughts. And as a grammarian, it is also my duty to give a word of the day, and the word of the day for today is behemoth, which is a huge or monstrous creature, or something enormous, especially a big and powerful organization. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you. The next person I'd like to introduce is the counter listen up, which is Earl?
John,
John, I'm sorry. I didn't have a name down.
as the counter, I will be watching and listening to the speeches and impromptu speaking to listen for crutch words such as so, like, doubles like I know. And I will point those out at the end so we can kind of keep a track record of how we're doing from where we start to where we end up in our journey as Toastmasters. I'll give a report at the end of the meeting on how we did. As the listen up, I will listen to all the speeches and table topics, and I will ask questions at the end to see how well everybody was listening. Thank you, Madam General Evaluator.
You're welcome. The next person is Kittima, who is the timer.
Good morning. fellow Toastmasters and guests. Today I'll be the timer, and I'll be timing the table topics, speakers, formal speeches, and evaluations. I'll alert each speaker of the time they have left using the green, yellow, and red cards, which denote speaker times. Table topic speakers should limit their remarks to no more than 2 minutes. At 1 minute, I'll raise the green card. At 1 minute and 30 seconds, I'll raise the yellow card. At 2 minutes, I'll raise the red card. Most other speeches should be 5 to 7 minutes in length. At 5 minutes, I'll raise the green card, 6, the yellow, 7, the red. And evaluation should be 2 to 3 minutes. 2 minutes, I'll raise the green. 2 minutes and 30 seconds, the yellow, and 3 minutes, the red card. Thank you. Back to you, Madam Evaluator.
And John, do you want to introduce the vote counter?
Yes, I will also be the vote counter today. We're going to switch up because we moved to Zoom. We will no longer be emailing the votes. They will be put into we'll launch a poll at the end of the meeting, which will have all of the attendees and the speakers and the evaluators in that poll, and we will vote that way, and then I'll receive it that way. So thank you, Madam General Evaluator.
You're welcome. And now I'll return control to the Toastmaster of the day, Earl.
Thank you. So our first speaker today is Michelle. She is on the presentation mastery path on level 2 project, Understanding Your Communication Style. The speech title is Complexity of Communication. The speech time is 5 to 7 minutes. Michelle is currently working on the first speech of level 2 in her pathways. Take it away, Michelle.
Thank you, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I'm going to attempt to flip-flop between talking to you in this format and pulling up some PowerPoint slides. So excuse me while I end up clicking through this. Level 2, first speech, communication styles. I thought that this level would be easy to comprehend, no problem developing a speech or a conversation to have with all of you. And I quickly found out the behemoth of it. Communication is so complicated and there's so many things to talk about that I'm going to try to give you some pertinent information today. And I'm going to also have conversation with all of us together to try to have some good interaction. So when I think about communication, I think about talking and messaging with somebody through text, phone, or email. Donnell, can you tell me some words that you think of when you think of the word communication? What comes to mind? You're on mute, buddy.
That's the first thing that comes to mind. Am I on mute? But
right.
Listening is the first thing, because that's the very first key to communication, I think.
I would tend to agree. I think that's a big part that I've learned through Toastmasters. Sean, you're the last one I'm going to pick on for a couple more minutes. When you think of the word communication, what do you think about? What comes to mind? And you're on mute right now.
Okay, when I think of communication, I think of just an exchange of ideas, and making sure that both parties are communicated to. Well, both parties get clearly what the other is attempting to put forth.
Right, so it's an exchange back and forth.
Yes.
Thank you for that. So I'm going to share my screen, and what I would like to discuss with everyone today is briefly what we assume communication is versus reality, some individual communication styles, and the idea of situational communication. So before I joined Toastmasters, this is what I thought communication was. Can everybody see my screen? I thought that it was me walking up to you, giving you a message, bottom, that's done, bottom dollar. As I joined Toastmasters and I've been in a different career that involves a lot of communication, I quickly learned the reality of communication is that it's like this behemoth beast that can be easy to understand, but there's many moving parts. Now I'm trying to close it. So we've already established that communication, it's not as simple as someone might think. It's very complicated and complex. But what makes it even more challenging is that there's different communication styles. Has anybody ever watched a movie where there was an Army sergeant in boot camp yelling at people, or even Brandon, Kidema, Donnell, a couple other ones? Can you remember being in boot camp and being screamed at about getting in line and staying attention and all that? That's a certain type of communication style that's appropriate in certain situations. Those of us that live with other people probably know that that type of communication style is not effective. So there's different kind of communication styles that we might tend to lean towards, but the situations we find ourselves in can really determine how we're able to communicate that situation and how we might need to tailor what we do. So this past week, I'm going to show you 2 images of 2 specific communication situations I found myself in that I normally don't. I found myself in a job interview. I haven't had a job interview for about 10 years. So this was a common but unfamiliar, uncomfortable situation that I found myself in. The other second situation I found myself in was consoling a friend who had a problem that she was dealing with. So in each of those 2 situations, whether you're going to a job interview or you're consoling a friend, it doesn't matter what your leadership style or your communication style is. Mine is a little aggressive or direct. I had to learn how to tailor my communication to my possible future employer and also to my friend who was grieving. I'll specifically talk about the employer one, since I know that there are some people in here that are working with others to work on their interview skills. Not that mine are great, but this is what I did. My experience is that I went in with a list of questions. I went in with a list of situations and ideas. I heard what the future potential employer had to say, and I asked him questions about situations and expectations. And at the end of the conversation, I said, what I'm hearing you say is so on and so forth. I could continue to talk about this topic for probably 20 more minutes, but I don't want to bore you and go over my time. So the main point of this conversation today is that communication is a behemoth of a topic. It's very complicated. You have to know what your style is and how you react to different situations. And that will help you successfully navigate through situations and make sure that you heard what I said and I heard what you said. And I can expect to continue part 2 in my next speech. Thank you. P.S. Needed more time next time.
Okay.
Communicate. You can talk about communication for hours.
Okay. I was like, wait, is there more? I thought you were just building up to some things.
No.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. A lot of good stuff there, and I can concur with a lot of what you said, having to deal with people, communicating with a lot of people, and doing a lot of interviews, both being the interviewer and being the interviewee. I concur with a lot of what you said. So you guys are learning. If you are going out into the workforce here shortly, you might want to pay attention. Okay, so our next speaker is Sean. And now if I can just find his speech title page. Stand by. Oh, there it is. Oh, no. Okay. So Sean is on the presentation mastery path. This is his third speech. The speech time is 5 to 7 minutes. And the speech is entitled Journey to Debt Freedom. Sean?
All right, thanks, Earl. Good morning, Toastmasters and guests. My title is Journey to Debt Freedom. And I'd just like to ask a quick question. By show of hands, how many of us are familiar with debt? Okay, I think we got about 100% participation there. Just to be clear though, I'll give a brief definition. Debt is something, typically money, that is owed or due. Unlike an immediate purchase, it's usually a deferred payment or a series of payments. When used properly, it can be a useful tool for navigating day-to-day purchases. However, it can lead to a lifetime of digging out if misused. And sometimes avoiding this can be tough. Today, cash is one of the least popular ways to pay for goods and services, which makes it easier than ever to just reach for the plastic. Benefits such as cashback bonuses, air miles, and fraud protection can make credit cards even more appealing. Debt comes in many forms and can be disguised in numerous ways, such as buy here, pay here, no money down, easy financing, and no payments till 2021. You've heard them all. As convenient as it sounds, the consequences of purchases on credit can outlast the life of the product or the service. This makes it very easy to lose track of spending. To make matters worse, interest is charged daily, and if only minimum payments are made, a single debt can be stretched out to years, causing the amount to balloon. Most people don't need me to tell them that debt is a bad thing, and I'm far from a financial expert. However, in my experience with it, I learned a couple of ways to pay it off that worked for me. It was around 2014 when I began to notice that for the salary that I made, it shouldn't be this hard to stay afloat with my bills. Through a series of poor financial choices and plain living out of my means, I was almost $50,000 in debt. It seemed impossible to overcome this behemoth of debt. Debt can be compared to the frog in the boiling water story. If you start off with a frog in comfortable water and gradually heat up the kettle, he won't notice and jump out until it's too late. Fortunately, it wasn't hard to notice that my quality of life was being impacted by my debt, and I had to make a major shift in order to overcome it. I had gotten much too comfortable just swiping credit cards for purchases that I should have been paying cash for. Or to put it more accurately, purchases that I shouldn't have been making at all. Moving debt from one card to another and opening new credit lines had begun to squeeze my budget, spreading my income thinner and thinner. Leading up to this, I believed that I could just use one of the bailout commercials that renegotiated your salary, that renegotiated your debt, and I could pay just a fraction of what I owed. The commercial's claims didn't add up, and I ultimately discovered that the best way to handle this was to face the problem directly and develop a plan. There was no get out of debt quick scheme. One of my biggest revelations was that debt was independent of the money that I brought in. I could have been making double the income and be in the same boat if I didn't change my spending habits. So after some research and a paradigm shift to refocus my view on debt, I narrowed down my strategy to two methods: debt snowball and debt avalanche. Both start off with listing all of your debts and making minimum payments on all but one creditor, which gets any extra money that you can put towards the debt. With debt snowball, you list all of your debt, then pay the balances off in order of smallest to largest, gaining momentum as you knock out each balance. When the smallest debt is paid in full, you roll that money you were paying on that debt into the next smallest debt. So for the sake of simplicity, let's say you had 3 credit card payments, $10, $50, and $100, each month totaling $160. Once the smallest bill is paid off, you now have 2 payments each month of $60 and $100. The monthly total you pay out on the debt never goes up, but a greater amount is applied towards the remaining bills on your debt list. So by the time you make it to the last creditor on the list, the total of all 3 payments, $160, is going to one remaining creditor. The next payment is the debt avalanche. It has a similar strategy, but you pay down debt by getting rid of the balance with the highest interest rate first. With this payoff strategy, you make minimum monthly payments on all of your debts, but pay extra towards the debt with the highest interest rate until it's gone. Then you apply the extra payment to the next highest interest rate. My method was the debt avalanche. Luckily, I had good credit, so with a combination of 0% credit cards and paying off highest interest rates first, I was able to make this work for me. It can seem daunting, but developing a budget you can live with will produce results to keep you on the right track. I began to enjoy seeing my debt being reduced over the perks of any frivolous lifestyle. A year or two into this strategy, I knew down to the month of when I'd be out of debt, and I stuck to the plan. Today, I'm debt-free, and I couldn't be happier. It's as if a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. A quote I discovered that helped me through this that you may be familiar with is, "If you live like no one else, later you can live like no one else." Dave Ramsey. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. A lot of good advice there.
Thanks.
I have been in that situation before, as I'm sure many of us have, especially in your youth, and you get issued that credit card and you just don't really have a sense of financial responsibility. But luckily I too have been in that same boat where I've taken care of that stuff. I got a little smarter on how to deal with things, how to take better care of my money, and don't have that issue. But though my youngest just went off to college, so it's starting all over again, but for a different reason.
Yeah, you know, this idea stemmed from talking to my daughter about her credit cards, you know, so right. It was a bingo.
Good.
Get down. Yeah.
Okay. Next, we'll move on to our table topics, which today our topics master is Donnell.
Okay. Thank you.
Donnie, you're here.
I am here.
Oh, you confused me because your name's your display name is different.
I am using an alias this morning. Sorry. Switching platforms. I was logged into the wrong one. My apologies.
Okay.
So greetings, Mr. Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters and guests. The purpose of Topics Master is to facilitate table topics where guests and members will have the opportunity to practice their impromptu speaking. I will introduce a topic and call on speakers who will be given 2 minutes to speak on the subject. So last week, John talked about the acronym FEAR, which stood for false evidence appearing as real. And since we are in October and there's a lot of spooky, fear-filled things, I would like for you to name a time when you were overcome with fear, whether that was real or false, and how you either overcame it or succumbed to it. Name a time when you were overcome with fear. How did you overcome it or succumb to it? Who would like to be my first victim? I mean, volunteer.
Brandon will.
Brandon, thank you.
Yeah, so I need some redemption from last week because it was pretty poor, and this one's a little easier for me. The entire reason why I joined Toastmasters was because I have a completely unreasonable fear of public speaking, completely unfounded, unreasonable. I've never been physically hurt. I've never been struck while talking to people. So I have this unfounded fear. So how have I overcome it? I really haven't. It's gotten better, right? I think it was Vernil who told me when we're actually having our physical meeting, and I kind of stood up the first time in front of everybody and talked about my unfounded fear. And she said, it's not, I talked about my butterflies, and she said, it's not, you're always going to have butterflies more than likely. It's just getting them to fly in formation. And that's starting to happen, right? It's starting to happen. Whereas before I had like a lot more trouble putting my hand up to do the table topics. And now it's kind of like, all right, I'm just going to do it. No big deal. Kind of huck it and kind of go with it. It's been a behemoth of a task for me. It's been a huge, insurmountable task, but I get up, I do it. Sometimes I fall on my face like I did last time when I got the question about the movie, and I talked about the time that I showed my kids a movie that they probably shouldn't have seen, and I look like a big dummy in front of everybody, but whatever. There again, I didn't get hurt, completely unfounded, and it's an ongoing process to try to get over that unfounded fear. So thank you very much, Sahani. Back to you.
That was excellent. And I think there's a statistic that says that the fear of public speaking is actually the #1 fear that most people have. And so we can all relate to that. And I still have butterflies. And my husband, who does a lot more public speaking, will tell you that he gets sick before every speech. And he's been doing it. He's a radio show host. So he gets sick before every radio show. It's kind of painful for me. Would anybody else like to talk about a time when they were overcome with fear, real or imagined, how they overcame it or succumbed to it? All right, Donnell.
Okay, Mrs. Topic Master, I'm going to piggyback on what Brandon was talking about. Mine was public speaking as well, and I've been a member of the club for some time, and someone asked me to MC their retirement. We've been friends for a long time, and I felt like I couldn't turn him down. And I felt honored to that he asked me to do it, but I was in preparation for this. The person that was running the retirement, I was saying, give me the outline, give me everything that I'm supposed to do prior to that day. Give me like a 2-week head start, so I can read over everything. Well, that person didn't do that. And I'm sitting there, the time of the retirement, I'm like five minutes away. He had awards and all that. And I'm like, drenched in sweat. I'm like, I'm gonna look bad in front. He's my friend. I want him to look good, go out, retire on a good note. And I'm like kind of nervous. His kids are running around. One grabbing a toy hips my leg, and I'm about to lose it. So I overcame this. Well, I really didn't overcome it. I just did what I had to do and just went through the motions and tried to put on the best show possible. And that's my story. Madam Topics Master.
Thank you very much. Then that is definitely grace under fire. That was, I could totally imagine the scenario that you were in. And a lot of times preparation helps us decrease our fear, right? But we don't always have the luxury of preparation, kind of like this topic. So would there be anybody else who would like to talk about a time where they had fear, imagined or real, and how they overcame it or succumbed to it? Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. And yes, I've been very comfortable in my current job for the past 8 or 9 years. And I had a real fear when I went into an informal job interview earlier this week, because I was going to be the one being interviewed, while I'm used to being part of a panel of interviewing people. So this was a real fear that I had. And a way in which I overcame it was I prepared, like how Donnell said, how he tried to prepare. I had a list of questions, scenarios, comments, and I did some research on the people that were involved. And I also realized that being part of Toastmasters, as corny as it sounds, helped me to get through the conversation I had with a lot of confidence, that I was able to answer questions on the spot. And I think Toastmasters help me overcome that fear and get through that situation. Thank you.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Michelle. And it's so true. The way to get over your fear, as some psychology experts talk about, is to desensitize yourself to that fear. Is there anyone else that would like to talk about fear, or shall we move on? Okay, Kidama, thank you.
Could somebody time me, please? Ready, Donnell? So I do have a fear store. Oh, sorry. Ever since I was little, I've always been deathly afraid of roaches, because when I was changing my shirt in the school locker room, a roach was crawling on my bare chest. And as a child, you know, that's just disgusting. So I said, as an adult, I'm going to conquer my fear by trying to overcome it. I lived in New York City for 4 years. There's roaches everywhere, in the basement, and laundry room, everywhere. So as I was going to the laundry room, I saw a roach, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna kill this fear of mine by killing this roach. So I walked over and I stepped on it. And as I lifted up my foot, it wasn't there. So I was like, all right, whatever. So I'm doing my laundry. And guess what? I looked down, and on my chest was the cockroach. It flew up somehow and landed there. So did I ever conquer my fear? The answer is no. Anytime I see a roach now, I cross the street, or I will wait for my boyfriend to get home to pick it up and throw it away. So unfortunately, this sad fear is still not yet conquered. Madam Topic Master, thank you.
That was excellent. We could feel every painful moment of that story. And I'm sorry that we all collectively laughed at you at your poor outcome. But it was comical, but very relatable. Thank you for that fear. Anyone else, or shall we move on? All right, I hand it back to you, Mr. Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you. I can relate a little bit to the roach thing, but I do smush them. I do get called all the time. My wife will call me, come into the room. There's a bug over there. So I'm the designated bug killer guy in the house, which I'm sure a lot of husbands are. So for John, the poll should be set now if you want to send it out, or do you want to save it till the end? Actually, we'll save it to the end because it's much faster.
Yeah, for evaluations. Yeah.
Yeah. Just be cognizant that my vote and your vote we can't vote because we have host privileges, but I'll just email you my choice.
Understood.
Okay. So the next part of the agenda, I got multiple screens going here, I guess, is the evaluations. So I'll hand it off to our general evaluator, Ms. Ray.
All right, thank you. The first evaluator is Earl.
It is me.
Yes, and you were evaluating Michelle.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Michelle, your topic was very relatable to all of us. Communication does, when you glance at it, seem very simple, but it is actually very, very complicated. You talked about different ways in which we can communicate: talking, text, phone, email. But it's not always what we say, it's how we say things. And sometimes it's the things that we don't say that have meaning to people. I like how you used PowerPoint, which, being a more visual guy, I like pictures more than words. I like bullet points rather than a whole paragraph. So I appreciate that. I liked the interaction with the audience. It drew people in to know that they're part of the conversation. It's not just you talking to us. It's you talking to us and we're talking back to you. So it's an exchange of ideas, which you talked about. I appreciated the movement. You didn't just stand still. You had a lot of hand gestures, which is I like a lot. One thing I would work on is occasionally you look up when you're trying to find words and it makes you appear as though you're not sure what you're going to say. So I would try to curb that if possible. Also, I would time out your speech a little better. It seemed a little short. And you also talked about the things that you were going to talk about, but then you didn't talk about one of the things, and that kind of left us hanging. So I was anticipating, well, she's going to talk about consoling her friend, but then you didn't. So it was kind of, I felt unfulfilled. But again, your topic of your speech was very relatable. It's common situations that we've all dealt with, and that kind of drew us in. We can all understand what it's like to go through a job interview, what it's like to console a friend or a family member, and how you would tailor your communication style to that receiver. Also, depending not just on how that person communicates, but the message that you're trying to send. So there's no one size fits all for this kind of thing. And you did a good job of relaying that point to us. I enjoyed your speech, and I'm looking forward to your next speech to tell us how you adjusted your communication style to console your friend. Thank you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Earl. Now, I myself am evaluating Sean, and he gave the speech Journey to Debt Freedom, which I thought was a very interesting title, which is always an advantage when you're giving a speech if you can catch the audience with your title. And he detailed his specifics about how you can get into debt. Buy here, pay here. No interest for 2 years. And suddenly with no interest and no payments for 2 years, you think, well, I'm not going to have to repay the debt. Or some young people will think that. They just don't realize they delay it and then they start adding on interest. And a snowballing effect. And he said he found himself $50,000 in debt, which is not uncommon, especially when you can take into consideration the costs of education. I did not get into debt with education. I was lucky, but I paid for a class or 2 at the time plus books, and I paid as I went. So I was several years in college versus 4 years and done and out. So it has both good and bad both ways. And I can see how you could easily get 50,000 in debt. And you said you had a snowball, which you paid off the least amount of debt first and then added it to the next thing. I think the better way is the debt avalanche, which was, going from the highest to the lowest and just putting that money on the next highest one, where you got the most attrition for your payment rate. Paying the highest interest one will always get you ahead because you make the fewest payments on that higher interest. And you said you had done this in preparation to talking to your daughter who was going off to college, trying to help her avert some of the mistakes that you obviously made yourself. It's not an easy balancing act because, a lot of the things that you're paying for are good. Buying your house, yes, that's a gigantic debt, but it's worthwhile because you're not paying rent to a landlord and making them rich. So I see it both ways. There are some debts that you need to incur, And then again, there are debts that you don't need to incur depending on how long you're going to be in the area. I know of several friends who I've advised to become renters because they were going to be there only 2 years for a school, and it's not worthwhile to try to resell something after such a short time. So there's good things about it, but you mentioned a lot of strong positives for why you should get out of debt. And I enjoyed your speech well. Thank you. Now, do I need to do anything else? Okay. I think I need to call on my report people, but do we need to pause for the vote?
I just launched the poll, so everybody have to vote now.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, John, is that in the chat? The
No, it
vote?
should
Or-
have just popped on your screen. There's a poll that pops up.
Oh, okay. Yep, I got it.
Yep.
Right.
All in the new transition to Zoom.
All right, cool.
All right, well, everybody is doing their polling. Let me start with our reports, beginning with our timer, Kittima.
So not the most behemoth of tasks, but I do have to go over the times today. For the prepared speeches, Michelle was supposed to be between 5 and 7 minutes. She was at 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Sean, 5 minutes and 7 seconds. Same time. It was the total time was 5 minutes and 55 seconds. For the table topics, Brandon was at 1 minute and 27 seconds. Donnell is at 1 minute and 55 seconds. Michelle is 1 minute and 6 seconds. And I'm not sure what my time was, Donnell.
Yeah, 120. I emailed you, but 120.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. And then for the evaluations, Earl was at 2 minutes and 38 seconds and Ray was at 3 minutes and 16 seconds. Thank you. Back to you, Ray.
Thanks. Now, can we have the counter listen up report?
Sure. The counter today, we did very well on the prepared and impromptu speaking and the evaluations. The only time I heard a couple of crutch words were when we were making the after comments or transitioning between roles and speeches and evaluations. So in that, we did very good with pausing rather than using our ahs and our ums and our likes, I knows. So that was great today. For as far as listen up, so during Michelle's speech, what was Donnell's comment that communication was to him?
Listening.
Correct. And what was an appropriate form of communication Michelle cited that for those who had been in the military?
Yelling.
Basically, being yelled at.
Right. Then we move into Michelle's speech too. What were the two images she gave us that she had encountered in the past week that she had to alter her communication styles?
The interview.
So,
Yeah.
And talking to a friend about a problem.
Correct. For Sean's speech, which did he say was the least popular payment style lately?
Cash.
Correct. And what was the image, the analogy he used for how we don't realize we're in debt until we're drowning in debt?
The frog in the boiling
yeah.
pot.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
exactly right. Yep, that was a great analogy. I like that. And for topics master, or for during the table topics, what did Brandon say that Vernell had told him about the butterflies? It's not that you're not going to have them, but that you've got to get them.
Line of formation.
That's correct. Then for Michelle's, how did she overcome the interview process, or how did she lower her fear for it?
Toastmasters.
Well, it's preparation. She ran through scenarios of how to, but that is how we've done it. That's correct. And then Where did Kidma try to defeat her fear of roaches but failed?
Laundry room in New York.
In the laundry room. Yeah. That's great. All right, that's what I have. That was a great. I thought all those were great. So everybody had a lot of imagery today. I love that. Back to you, Miss General Evaluator, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, John. For my general evaluation, we started the meeting on time. We had a little glitch with filling the roles, and we got that done fairly smoothly and quickly. And then everybody was on point. Everybody was stepping up to fill in the roles from people who were absent or we thought were absent. And it was well known that we had some missing roles because people got calls for their jobs and stuff. And we always make accommodations for that. We're very good about doing that at PG Articulators. Not all clubs manage that as well. So I'm always proud of how well we do that. And that is a skill and art, and it takes people just being not afraid and really understanding that they have a lot more confidence than they realize because we are a warm, welcoming group. And that's my general comments. Mr.
Hey, I got something to say.
Oh, okay.
Behemoth. And you forgot Brandon.
Oh, okay. Wordmaster and grammarian. I knew I was missing someone. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Brandon.
I was going to say something. So thank you, Donnell. All right. So for my grammarian support, we'll start with the word of the day. Obviously, Donnell just got two behemoth drops in there. But Michelle beat you out. She got 3 total. Sean got 1. I got 1, and Kinema got 1 as well for her table topics. As far as grammatical, like suggestions and improvements, far be it from me to correct anyone. I don't have anything on that, so okay. I'm not even gonna go with that. But I do have quotes, thoughts, and words, and some other things that I liked. Sean, we already talked about your frog in the kettle saying. I thought that was very good and helped make that connection with the audience. We've all heard that before. You talked about the debt snowball and the debt avalanche. I like that. And that was presented very clear and concise and helped people kind of know the difference there. And then you quoted Dave Ramsey with live like no one else, so you can later live and give like no one else. I think he's one of the most notable personalities in personal finance. So that was a very good quote there and very apt for your topic on debt. Michelle, during your table topics, I liked your thought on how Toastmasters helped you with your interview. I personally, about 2 months ago, also had an interview. So that obviously relates with me, and I think a lot of us are kind of here for that similar reason anyway. And that's all I have. That concludes my grammarian report. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Okay. Well, now I'll return control to Earl.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. So let's see. We need to do the agenda for next week while, excuse me, while the vote counter tallies the votes. So let me share my screen real quick if I can find it. Okay, so who would like to be the Toastmaster of the day? And I can't see everybody because of small. Let me adjust my window. Anyone?
I'll do it, Earl. Right.
Okay. Topics master. I'll put Tyler since he's not here.
Oh, hey, I was on mute. You can leave me as topics master.
Okay. General evaluator.
I'll take that, Earl. John.
That's weird. Why did it do that? Okay, I'll fix it later. Grammarian wordmaster. Sean. I counter look them up. All right, now I'll start putting people's names in. Timer.
Sahani can do that.
And vote counter. I'll do that. Big fun. Okay. Who's ready to give a speech?
I have a speech, Kidama.
Anyone else? No.
Sahani can give a speech.
Anyone else ready? All right. Let's see. So we need an evaluator or two.
I can do an evaluation.
I
Anyone
can
else?
too.
I'm sorry?
I said I can too, Ray.
Okay. We have to get with those folks that are missing to see if they're ready to give speeches. So we may have a call out for evaluators. All right.
And just to confirm, when is the next meeting? It's not the 31st, right?
No,
It'll be, stand by.
November 7th.
yep,
Thank you.
7th and then the 21st.
Sorry, Earl, I'm not going to be here on the 7th, so I can't be the grammarian.
Okay. We'll stick Jess in that spot.
Mhm.
All right. No worries. I didn't assign something to Aaron. I'll have to find something for him since he's not here.
That's who the third person was on here.
Okay. So, Mr. Vote Counter, are you ready?
I am. So for best speaker today, we have Sean. Good job, Sean. For the best table topics, we have a tie between Donnell and Kenneba. Good job, guys. And then for the best evaluator, we have Earl.
Yay for me. All right. Thanks, everybody.
And just so you know, Earl sets up these polls, so I think he rigs them. He wins every week.
That's just a coincidence. No. So overall, this meeting went very well, considering that we moved to a new platform. So it's always difficult when you move to a new environment, and for some of us, this is brand new. So overall, I think it went very well, especially considering that, and we were shorthanded today. We had a couple people out, but like Ray said, we always do a very good job of getting people to roger up to filling the roles as needed. So, Ms. Jacqueline, if you are open to it, I'd like to hear some feedback on the meeting and what you thought. No?
Yes. Yeah, I thought, again, this is my second time meeting, and I appreciate you guys inviting me as a guest speaker, or not as a guest speaker, but as a guest. And I thought I loved Michelle's speech. I thought it was very engaging. It had me, as you had mentioned, I was waiting for that big revelation, but it's still phenomenal because she was able to get us engaged, which I think was it's important. You know, you can't have an audience that's just sleeping, right? You have to be engaging, and she did a phenomenal job on that. I thought also, who was it? Donnell, he did also, he spoke very well, very interesting about depth. And yeah, I felt he was selling me something, so I would definitely be interested in whatever he would be selling. So overall, amazing job.
Okay.
And you guys are well organized. I see, even with being shorthanded and everything, you guys are able to maneuver yourselves well.
Well, thank you. Appreciate the input. Are you ready to sign up now? No pressure. No pressure. Now,
No pressure.
yeah, so I thought the speeches were good today. Not only were they engaging, I felt like I learned things today. So it's not just, I'm the type of person that believes that there's always something more to learn. So if possible, I try to learn things, and this was an opportunity to learn a lot of things. And passively, I wasn't actively looking for something to learn. I'm just listening, and then things are popping into my head, and I might even remember some of them. So let's see. Well, that's all I have. So we're having an open house on December 5th, but that has been moved to January 16th.
Correct.
Okay. So put that on your calendars. If have some friends that are interested in improving themselves, please invite them. The reason it's being moved is because during the weekend of the 5th, the district is having the Winter Leadership Institute, which is a series of free lectures and courses for us to improve ourselves. So that's something that you should consider. It's free, and a lot of the people that are giving briefs are very good speakers. They have a lot of knowledge to pass on. So if you want to improve yourself, this is a really good opportunity to do it, and it's free. That's all I have. Does anything?
Earl,
Yes.
are we still going to have an executive committee meeting the 1st November, the first Saturday of November? We had that extra slotted in to
Right.
help to organize the open house.
Yeah, we should just have our regular meeting in December, and then we can talk about it then.
Okay.
That sound good?
That sounds perfect, yeah.
Okay,
And
so-
is New Beginnings going to have their club contest as a practice this month?
I believe they are. Is that Andrew Bull Club?
Yeah. So I'll try to find out about that and then send an email out. So if any of us want to just go watch and
Right.
see how the first chance to have a club contest virtually goes, and maybe learn some tips for ourselves for the future.
Right. Good point. So for everyone,
I believe that it's this month sometime.
yes, I think so. So for everyone, we usually have a speech contest once a year, usually around March. But because of COVID, the speech contests are going to be early this year, or they're going to be virtual rather. So that takes a lot more preparation to pull everything together to make it work. Some clubs are actually having, are these official contests, or are they just sort of practice contests? Yeah, so some clubs are having practice contests now, so that when the real contest comes around next year, they'll be prepared. So think about if you would like to participate. The two categories will be international, which is a 5 to 7 minute speech on a topic of your choosing. And then tall tales is the other category that our district will be having. I've never seen that. I imagine you just write a speech that's a tall tale. But think about it if you'd like to participate, or if you would like to help out, because it takes a lot of work to actually run the contest. So if you're interested, just think about it. There's a page on the Toastmasters website that details all the contest stuff, and the rule book for the contest is up there as well. So if no one has anything else, all right, everyone have a super terrific day, and make sure you get out and enjoy the sun. Bye.
Bye.